like to welcome you to this webinar, which is going to be the first webinar, Essential Oils for Beginners. I hope that you will find this information helpful. Disclaimer, I'm not a medical doctor. Please consult your physician or pharmacist before using essential oils if you are on medication. The reason why I have this disclaimer is because essential oils do have the potential to interact with medications if you are on medications. What are essential oils? Essential oils are the volatile liquids that are distilled from plants. They are oil soluble, which means they easily mix with oils and fats. What does volatile mean? Most people, when they think of volatile, they'll think of something being explosive, which in some cases that would be the case. But in the case of essential oils, volatile just means that when you open up an essential oil bottle, which is an essential oil, in essence is a liquid, and it hits the air, it turns from a liquid to a gas very quickly, which is also known as evaporation. What parts of the plant do essential oils come from? Essential oils come from the seeds, the bark, the leaves, the stems, the roots, the flowers, the fruit, just about the whole plant. But not all plants produce essential oils. There are certain terms that you might hear when people are dealing with essential oils. Carrier oil and neat are probably two of the biggest ones. Carrier oil is just an oil that's mixed with an essential oil so that it can be diluted and spread over a larger area. For example, if I want to put lavender in a carrier oil is just, let's say for example, I use coconut oil. Coconut oil will be the carrier oil. So I'll put 1 drop of lavender and 3 drops of the coconut oil, and that would be my carrier oil. Just about any oil can be used for a carrier oil. You want it to be an organic oil, and you also want to make sure that it's not genetically modified. I would say stay away from canola or soybean oil because a lot of times those are genetically modified, and even if they're not, they just are more likely to go rancid, also bad, easily. The ones that most people use are coconut oil, fractionated coconut oil, which the difference between fractionated coconut oil and regular coconut oil is that fractionated coconut oil just will always remain liquid. Whereas if you use regular coconut oil, when the temperature dips below 76 degrees, it will turn solid. Not saying that you can't use just regular coconut oil, but you just have to be mindful of what the temperature is. Now, as far and not along with coconut oil and fractionated coconut oil, people also use sweet almond oil, jojoba oil, avocado oil, olive oil, grapeseed oil, and I also have heard of people using Jamaican black castor oil too. Neat just means that the essential oil can be applied without using a carrier oil. If you have sensitive skin, you probably would never want to apply an essential oil to your skin neat. And even if you're unsure whether you have sensitive skin, just to be on the safe side, you should always put an essential oil in a carrier oil. What determines the quality of an essential oil? There are 3 things that determine the quality of an essential oil: purity, potency, and testing. Purity just means that the essential oil you just get the essential oil. There's no fungicides, there's no pesticides, there's no herbicides, there's no fungicides, no fillers, no binders, nothing's synthetic. It's just the essential oil. As far as potency, potency is just how strong the essential oil is. And basically, there are two things that can affect the potency of an essential oil, and those are whether the plant is actually grown where it's naturally found, and also what time it's harvested, because there's a peak time when a plant that's going to produce an essential oil has to be harvested in order for it to be as potent as it can be. As far as testing, the essential oil should be tested throughout the manufacturing process of the essential oil, and then that testing should also be done by a third party to make sure that the testing that was done by the manufacturer actually matches that of the one done with the third party. These purity, potency, and testing are the standards that they use to deem something as therapeutic grade. Diluting an essential oil. What is diluting? Diluting just means that you're putting an essential oil into a carrier oil, which was discussed on a previous slide. Why should you dilute an essential oil? There's 3 reasons why you should dilute an essential oil. If you want to put it on a larger area, if you apply it to a child, and lastly, if you have sensitive skin. How do you dilute an essential oil? You dilute an essential oil by putting 1 drop of that essential oil into 3 drops of a carrier oil. For example, if I'm going to dilute geranium, I would put 1 drop of geranium and mix it with 3 drops of coconut oil, and that would be diluting. How can an essential oil be applied? There are 3 ways that an essential oil can be applied: topically, aromatically, and internally. Topically just means that it's being applied to your skin. Aromatically just means that you're inhaling it. And you can do aromatically either through a diffuser, which is just a device that turns the essential oil from a liquid into a fine mist. If you don't have a diffuser, you can also open up the bottle and just inhale it that way. You can put a couple drops with a carrier oil on your hands and cup your hands over your nose. You never want to cup it over your eyes. You never want to have essential oils by your eyes, in your ears, or any other sensitive area. And the third way is internally. Only therapeutic grade essential oils should be taken internally, and not all essential oils can be taken internally, even if they are therapeutic grade. You know, if, at least for doTERRA, I can't speak for other manufacturers, but in their case for doTERRA products, it will actually say on the bottle for aromatic, topical use, or dietary use. In addition to that, you'll also see a supplement facts label, and underneath that label, it will have 1 way that you can take that essential oil internally. This brings webinar to close. I want to thank you for attending this webinar, and I hope you stay tuned for webinar 2, which will be essential oils and the science behind them. I want to thank you again for attending, and I'll be back for webinar 2.